Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another episode of On the Air with Tim and Ken. Ken, great to be back.
Tim, great to be back for another episode. Just a really busy time of year in sports. We got a lot to go over. Looking
Yeah.
forward to another show tonight.
No, this is good. We've gone too long without it, so we do have a lot to catch up on. Let me give a quick rundown. But before I do, our disclaimer. We always say this. Folks, this is just for fun only. Don't make a bet. Don't buy a stock. Don't buy a franchise. Well, if you do, let us know. But this is just for fun. So sit back and enjoy. And we appreciate all the subscribers and all the viewers, and our production staff's doing a great job. But,
Yeah, we just appreciate everybody that gives us a few minutes of their time. And if you're, a first-time watcher, Tim and I have known each other 40 years, and we're just having some fun talking about sports and sports business. And
yeah.
we look forward to going through another show tonight.
And hit the like button. We like that. Forget the other button, hit the like button. All right, so for tonight, we got a few things we're going to try to get through. And if we do, we do. If we don't, we don't. We're going to lead off with UNC football, Bill Belichick. U.S. Open tennis, big event that just ended. The golf Ryder Cup's coming up. That's a big thing. We're going to get into that. I'm going to try to give a little bit of a history lesson on the history of legalized sports gambling in the United States, and I'll try to make it a little bit interesting. So we have a lot, and we'll get through it. We'll do the best we can. But I wanted to start with UNC football. It was the big thing. You heard about it since early August or prior. Bill Belichick going to UNC, his first year there. He revamped the whole team apparently. I don't know how he did it at the collegiate level, but he got players in there that he wanted. And they launched on a Monday night, and Ken, tell what happened.
Well, I was down, I split my time between North Carolina and Connecticut. I just got back to Connecticut, but I was down there and they covered every minute of the day of game day. It was a primetime game. And, they got spanked a little bit, but, TCU is a good team. I think people don't realize how good TCU is. And, there's going to be some growing pains with Coach Belichick and the team. It's just 70 new guys. There's, he's new system for him, new coaches. They came back and beat Charlotte last week. They've got, a couple of games they should do well the next couple of weeks. Richmond and UCF. And then October 4th will be the big game, Clemson at home. That'll be a real test to see how much they've grown since week one. Clemson's a legitimate playoff team. So I don't know if they're good enough to win the national title, but they are definitely good enough to get into the NCAA playoffs. And currently they have not assigned a time to that game. So I think they're kind of waiting and seeing whether, they want to put that prime time or not. So it'll be, but don't give up on Coach Belichick. He's been doing this a long time. He's a brilliant guy. But, everybody jumped off the bridge after the first game. They had Michael Jordan there and Lawrence Taylor and Roy Williams and Mia Hamm, all the alumni. But he'll bounce back.
No, nobody works harder. He's a disciplined guy, and he's gonna get that team in the right spot to the level they should be at. And they might have been a bit overwhelmed, but the biggest story was TCU is really a good team. So it wasn't a surprise that TCU won. It was probably by the score and how they won. I don't really think too many people saw that happening, but it did. And I'm sure Belichick was the first guy back in the film room the next morning or later that, the middle of the night. But like you said, well, he can't call those plays at 9 o'clock in the morning to watch film. They're supposed to be in class. So it's a little bit different than the NFL.
I think that's going to be probably one of his biggest adjustments is, the amount of time that they're allowed to dedicate toward football. So, but he'll figure it out.
Yeah, they'll get it going in the right direction. We'll keep an eye on it. Like you said, that Clemson game's on the calendar, and we'll see how things go between now and then. All right, let's move on to U.S. Open tennis. I'm not the biggest tennis fan in the world, but this is just a great tournament, and every year it comes on. I've never been. I watch it on TV. I don't know all the plays, but I learn about them during those 2 weeks. It's just a great venue and a great tournament.
It really is an exciting time of year in New York. Grew up in the New York area. I've never been, even though I've lived here most of my entire life, but it does really capture the city for 2 weeks. It's on the news. The tennis is day and night. It brings out the celebrities. It really is a great event. I too would love to go, but I didn't. We did some research on it, and I didn't realize how much of a worldwide event it is.
Yeah.
And
You had some
both the men
numbers
and
on
women's.
that. You had some stats
Yeah,
from around the
the men
world.
and women's draws both have 128 players each. For the men's draw, only 23 are Americans out of the
Wow.
128. France is next with 12. Italy and Australia have 9. There's 36 different countries represented in the men's draw. The women's draw has 38 different countries represented. U.S. has 24 of the 128. Russia had 13. Czech Republic and Australia had 8. So it really is a worldwide event. So, and I think sometimes we forget, being in America, being in New York, these worldwide events, the
Sure.
people around the world are tuning in to watch.
And we talked about this a little bit, and we were talking. Or you mentioned to me, you said, "Well, you remind me, Tim, well, this is like the only national or international tournament where the men and women play at the same time at the same venue for the same prize money, and the competition is phenomenal. I mean, both men and women, both compelling. I watch both of them equally. The men try to be a little power game, and the women are very powerful to beyond what I can comprehend. But they also have a great finesse, and their volleys tend to go longer. So and the whole thing is built on drama and just the physicality of it. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I think they've made the greatest strides in equalizing the men and women in their sporting events. The major tennis events is where the men and women do play at the same venue at the same time. Both the men and women's champions receive $5 million as the winner. So I think it's great for sports, and they both the men and the women put on great shows. They're
Yeah.
the best of the best. So you get hooked. It doesn't even matter name wise who they are.
Yeah.
Like we grew up we were talking earlier. We'll talk the McEnroe era and the Jimmy Connors era. And you may not recognize the name, but the talent is incredible.
Yeah, yeah. We talked about we'll get into McEnroe in a second, but getting back to the competition, we know they if they move on, if they advance, they have 7 rounds. They play every 2 days. So whether they're hurt or not hurt, there's no timeouts. There's no substitutions. You're playing, and that's it. And every 2 days, and they can be playing at midnight or 3 in the afternoon, and their off day must be just built with strategy and massage and technique. There's no downtime for it's basically a 2-week event that it never stops for the players. They're always engaged. We don't see all of that, but it's phenomenal to watch, and it's just great stuff.
It's always been a great sporting event for New York and for the world. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
worldwide event based on how many different countries are represented. So it's great for sports. And
yeah.
we've talked that they were going to do an $800 million improvement and self fund it. So that's just tremendous for everybody.
Yeah, and right before we went on the air tonight, we talked about the watching it on television, and we talked about the broadcast, and with the McEnroe brothers, and the commentary, the call of the game is just phenomenal. We talked about that. They don't overdo it. They have great insight, and when they're telling you what's going on, they don't just fill the dead air. They give you insight into what's going on in a very kind of a soothing way. It's just a great broadcast.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, John McEnroe is probably my favorite announcer in any sport. And if you watched him 50 years ago when he was a player, you wouldn't believe it was the same guy. If you know him as a tennis player, you know what we're talking about. If you don't, Google John McEnroe, the tennis player, and I'm sure there's videos out there. He was this hot-headed, yeah. I mean, he was the best player in the world for a while. He was hot-headed and screamed at all the line judges, and but he is, I think, the best analyst because he brings a point of view if there's something to talk about. I think so many times you turn on a
Yeah,
sporting event and these play-by-play guys feel like if there's dead air, they got to fill it. And I feel like the McEnroe brothers are really good at letting the game breathe and you can sit there and watch. I don't need to know, what he did what this guy did 20 years ago. So I think they're great. The brothers
Yeah,
together, they're great,
he
and
doesn't he
Chrissy
doesn't
Everett
talk
did a
about
great job for the
yeah.
women's.
And McEnroe doesn't talk about what he did 40 years ago. He doesn't say, "Well, I would have done this or I would have done that." But like Ken said, if you're under the age of 50, go on YouTube and Google John McEnroe tantrums or something. You're gonna see he's a phenomenal tennis player, not the most imposing physical character out there. And you're gonna say, "How did this guy do this?" But watch 5 minutes of the, if you're not familiar with him, and you can't believe that he's doing this commentary when 40 or 50 years ago he was winning the U.S. Open, and not only was he winning it, but he was also calling the game for the referee at the same time. Every point, just about screaming about that was out, that was in, banging his racket.
But he was right. He was right a lot of the times.
Oh yeah, he was. It was just,
I mean, so he'd be yelling at the Cyclops now or whatever they have now that are electronically calling, and
you
so
can't believe he's the same guy today. It's great.
it's it's like he's tranquilized calling these games compared to what it was 50 years ago.
I guess he's getting
So
a little bit older, but they do a great job, great tournament, and look forward to it again next year, come middle to late August, and that those improvements to the venue. I didn't know they needed any improvements, but hey, the better the better, right? So looking forward to that.
if they're paying for it, go
Right,
for it, right?
right. Now we got one of our favorite things coming up, Ryder Cup. So that'll be here in a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
also in New York, and huge event. Before we get into some of the players and the picks and the Keegan Bradley dilemma there with the coach, I wanted to give you a little story, a little background on the Ryder Cup. I never knew this information. No one cares about other than me. How did it get its name? What's it really mean? I never knew what the Ryder Cup really stood for. Well, it started in 1927. And what it was obviously a competition at that time between, you mentioned in the previous podcast, between England and the US. It wasn't at that time all of Europe. And it was just golf competition. Well, this guy, Seymour Ryder from England, he made his money in selling seeds and packets of seeds, penny packets. He was a businessman, and he took ill when he was in his 50s. And I guess he had to get out, and he was probably in the warehouse too long or something. He had to get out, get fresh air and exercise. He took up golf, and he got hooked on it. He got to be a decent golfer, and then he decided to, when this tournament was coming, they were talking about having a tournament like this. He said, "Well, I'll donate the trophy." So it's named after him. So if you want to be famous, just buy a trophy and start something. Just give it to whatever. And you never. That's how it started. I thought it was like some king or something. No, just some guy had a seed company and they bought the trophy. No one's ever. Why is it called the Ryder Cup? Now you kind of know, but that doesn't really matter today. It's still great competition, and so let us know what's going on. You went through some of the picks and all that coming up, and
So both teams made their captains pick. I think the only unknown at the time was whether Keegan Bradley was going to select himself for the
right.
team because he had just played so well. I did watch his press conference. He did not select himself. I was hoping he wouldn't. I probably thought he would, but he he sounded really good. I mean, you don't hear a lot from Keegan Bradley. You watch him play over the years, but I can't tell you that I've heard him say, more than, 10 words accepting a trophy at the end of a tournament. He's not somebody that
Right.
they go to, but he really sounded down to earth, giving the press conference and picking the team. So it's going to be, I think, a great event. The European team is loaded. They did select John Rahm, the live golfer. Yeah, he's got a phenomenal record in the Ryder Cup. So it's going to be a tremendous event. It's in New York, right? It's going to be at Bethpage Black. It's going to be a circus.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Now, do
president's
you?
showing up Friday, which will make it even a bigger circus.
Yeah. Now, would you
So
agree that if Keegan Bradley wasn't the the coach on this thing, that that he would have been a player?
I think the way he played, you would have had to select him.
Yeah. So
He
my
played
point
really
is,
well.
going forward, when they, when they look at this, picking the captains and all that, do you think going forward they're going to think deeper about that? Because they made it was an awkward thing now. All of a sudden, you got a guy that really is qualified to play, yet he knew he really, that wasn't his best role. He's captain. He's got to take that role on. He really couldn't do both. He didn't feel comfortable doing both.
I think they got in a bit of a bind for this Ryder Cup for the reason that with the Live Golf Tour, they were
Yeah.
not going to select the Live Golfer as Ryder Cup captain.
Right.
And when this was, I think, announced in 2017, it was coming to Bethpage. I would bet a lot that this was going to be Phil Mickelson's Ryder Cup captain. See,
Yes.
that the PGA has usually announced a PGA champion as a Ryder Cup captain. So I think almost all the Ryder Cup captains have been former PGA champions, which kind of limit. It was apparently offered to Tiger this year, and Tiger turned it down. But I think, Liv didn't start until 2022, I think it was, that this was destined to be Phil's Ryder Cup as captain. And that Keegan being a former PGA champion, they don't usually select somebody that's on the verge of playing and not playing. It's usually, a guy that's later on in his career that, is probably not playing full time on the tour. So I think he'll do a great job.
Oh, yeah.
But I think they're either going to have to adjust and pick somebody that maybe wasn't a PGA champion, or you're going to walk with this fine line of how many PGA champions are out there. And the other thing they have tried not to do is repeat captaincies. And I know they did with Tom Watson a few years ago, and that didn't really work out. Davis Love got a second chance because they really tried to keep to the PGA champion. And I think Keegan played well because he was out there playing with the guys he was going to captain. And he kind of implied, like, he really got to know the guys, and that's not how he usually operated. He was one of these guys that went to the golf course, did his job, and then went home. And because he was going to be captain, he spent more time at the course meeting players, and just found out how great it was to hang out with guys at the course. So I think he will do a great job. I think he's got a strong team. But
you mentioned Live Golf. I guess we might get some sense of where all that possibly going through this Ryder Cup event. We'll see how things play out. It's been very quiet on that. We might get a sense. Someone may say something. Yeah. I don't know.
So they wouldn't allow Bryson to play this week. This is the tournament that Keegan wanted everybody to play in Napa Valley. The PGA would not budge on that. So Bryson's out in Napa Valley apparently with the team, but not playing in the event.
Yeah.
So you don't know. It's contracts and egos and who wants to be the first to extend an olive branch.
I hope they get it done. Did you want to get into some of the picks?
Well, I mean, we talked about Cameron Young back in June.
Yeah.
When he won the 5-for-1 qualifier to get into the U.S. Open. So I grew up in Westchester County, New York, just north of New York City. It's a very hotbed of local golf. Cameron Young was from this area. His father was a golf pro at Sleepy Hollow Country Club. And he's actually won the New York State Open is played at Bethpage Black, and he won it as an amateur. And if you look at his record since just June 1st, he won his first tournament. He won the qualifier 5-for-1 to get into the U.S. Open, where he finished fourth, tied for fourth. He won his first tour event at the Wyndham. He's got 2 other ties for fourth and a fifth in the last 10 events, including a tie for fourth at the Tour Championship. This is a guy that really played his way in.
Yeah, definitely.
Over the last couple of months.
Yeah.
And he'll have a little familiarity with the course. So
backyard.
So it's gonna be a big event for him. I mean, the nerves must be crazy.
It's gonna be fun.
So it'll be fun. I think
I got
you
a
had something on one of the European players.
yeah. I was doing a little bit of snooping around, and I wanted to pick out a name I didn't really know, and it came up with European player. I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce it. That's all right. He's not sitting here. Rasmus Højgaard
I think he's
from
a
Denmark.
subscriber.
Yeah, yeah. I'd love to get him a hat and a shirt. 24-year-old from Denmark. It's his first time playing in the Ryder Cup. He hasn't won in the PGA. He's won on other tours, but he has not won in the PGA yet. And I think his highest world ranking is, my notes say 37th. I never heard of him, but what caught me, why I wanted to bring him up was he's got a twin brother, Nikolai, also a golfer, professional golfer. Nikolai played in the last Ryder Cup. So you got two brothers there, and I guess they're identical twins. Some people say the golf scene's not quite identical, but but the physicality of them both is very, very similar. Obviously, it's amazing to have two guys, twins, both make the Ryder Cup. Obviously different years. I'm sure at some point, hopefully, that they can continue. They'll be on the same team together. But Nikolai played in 2023. He went 0-2-1. And his highest world ranking is 30th. So they're very similar. I mean, if one of them, stays out too late one night, I'm sure the other one can substitute. No one's going to know. They can do blood work on the whole thing, and no one's going to know the difference. So keep an eye out for that. Make sure we got the right one in there, and they don't have a substitution. But I just thought that was kind of neat having twins like that. And other than that, I wouldn't have known his story. So we can keep an eye on him and keep an eye on someone in the stands that looks just like him.
I'll be the caddy, and they'll be constantly switching. And
right. Now you can hit this shot better than me. You can make
putt
this
better than me.
Yeah. You were playing better yesterday than me. So keep an eye on that. Just kind of a fun little thing there. So that'll be coming along. I'm looking forward to that. I wanted to move, if you have a few minutes. We have a few minutes. I wanted to move on to sports betting, legalized sports betting, and everything.
Which we don't encourage. We don't encourage.
No, we don't encourage it. We're not sponsored by DraftKings or anything like that. But I want to give you, Ken, it's back to school time after Labor Day. I'm going to give you a little history lesson here. I'm going to make the Constitution fun to learn. You're never going to forget this. We're going to make it fun. We should have given this to you in the 6th grade and given it to you this way. You never would have forgotten. Because I'm going to grab your attention, I think. Let me give you a little bit of history. Let me read my notes. 1931, Nevada legalized gambling and sports gambling. They were the first state to do so. We know Nevada, Las Vegas, and that's had a long history. So it's 1931, legalized gambling there and sports gambling there. And from 1931, after that, there were a handful of states had some limited legal gambling and sports gambling. But then what happened back in 1992, that was after John McEnroe's years, there was an act passed. It was called the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act. I don't know what it protected, but basically what it did was it prohibited an expansion of legalized sports gambling. So that's in 1992. So 1931, 1992, and I'm sorry, that was and then later. Let me get my dates right now. Hold on. And then I'm sorry, I'm messing up my dates. In any event, after all that, all of that was challenged in court, the U.S. Supreme Court, okay? And the U.S. Supreme Court struck down that act under the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment was in the original Bill of Rights. So now you're going to learn some history. 1791 or something like that. George Washington was president. Congress passed the act. At that time, there were about 4 million people in the United States, only 4 million. And that's really what controls sports betting, because back then, when they passed that amendment to the Constitution through the Bill of Rights, that's what legalized sports gambling. Now, it didn't say in the Constitution, we're going to legalize sports gambling. But what it did say was, hey, the federal government, if you don't prohibit it and you don't take control, you can't just prohibit the states from doing stuff. You can take control of certain things that are enumerated, and that's it. Otherwise, get out of the way. And that's basically what the court said in the 6-3 decision. Get out of the way, federal government. You just can't tell states what they can't do. Either you have the right to do it, federal government, enumerated, and it's not in there. So get out of the way. And that's why you have legal sports gambling in about 30-something states today. And that's really why you have it, because it was challenged. What I found interesting, though, it was the state that brought that challenge was New Jersey, okay? Think of Atlantic City.
Yeah.
Now, they had an exemption through that crazy Bradley Act, that PAVSA Act, the Professional Sports Act. They were exempt. They had a 1-year exemption, okay? I'm sure it was negotiated when that thing got passed. You know, things work in D.C. And New Jersey was very influential with Atlantic City back then. They had a 1-year exemption to act on the sports betting. They didn't. For whatever reason, you know how it goes. They couldn't get the right things in place and the right people paid off. They couldn't get it done. So that's why they then had to appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. And the U.S. Supreme Court, of course, looks at the Constitution, 10th Amendment. You'll always remember the 10th Amendment now. And George Washington was the president then. So there's your history lesson. Sorry I messed up on the dates, but I'm not a good history guy, but you got the gist of it. But I want to give you some numbers on sports gambling. And this isn't from me. These aren't my dollars. Just to give a comparison, in 2023, in the United States, $113 billion was spent on the lottery. Compare that to 2023 U.S. sports betting. This is legal betting, obviously, $121 billion. So sports betting is bigger. Globally, it's over $260 billion in sports betting. And on the Super Bowl, one event last year, estimated $1.4 billion on the Super Bowl. And I bring this up this time of year because of the NFL. I'm not saying anybody bets on the NFL, but every other ad now is DraftKings. About $30 billion is bet legally on the NFL during the course of the season. It grows by 8 to 10% a year. We'll see how it grows. But that's why I brought it up. It's NFL time. You see the DraftKings and everybody else out there now. And
well, that's why the sports leagues are business partners with them all, right? They want a part of that. So
yeah, we're gonna get into that in another episode maybe down the road in a month or two. About you and I, we see some big conflicts coming there, and we're going to touch on that. We think there could be some problems. Maybe not this year, but it's going to happen. So,
and then the other thing, Tim, you know my favorite topic coming up, the Connecticut Sun. I mean, what a mess. You know, we talked about it back in May that they were looking to either sell or find investors. And we'll go into this more in the next episode. So they have a sale partner in Boston for $325 million. The WNBA says no. Now the Connecticut governor and senator want to get involved. I mean, you got a lockout potentially coming up. What a mess. I mean, you get the opportunity, this is a business, right? You get the opportunity to go to a city like Boston with a guy that used to be a part owner of the Celtics, I believe.
Yep.
You have to take that deal.
They're only an hour and a half.
Take that deal.
They're about an hour and a half away from Boston now. I could be a little bit, but they're not that far away anyway. And like you said, they've got a guy that's ready to write the check. He's already been an NBA owner, well regarded, knows his way around the thing, and they poo-poo it, and we don't really know why.
It's like I said, we'll get to it in the next episode. But what a mess they've made. Yeah, you're kind of starting to see why the WNBA is losing money. Yeah, you have a business decision like that. It's
and those players, they're still not getting paid. I mean, they're making $80,000 a year. They're making, obviously, some of the superstars are making some money from endorsements, obviously, but most of them really aren't making a huge salary, and that can get to a work stoppage. The whole thing. The owners aren't making money supposedly. They poo-pooed this deal.
With a good owner in a great city, great sports city.
Solid owner. Yep.
So,
yeah.
All right. We're running out of time. We have an X account at Tim Ken Podcast. So you can follow us there. We thank you for your time. And we look forward to seeing you shortly.
All right.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks again, Ken. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Have a good night, everybody. Thanks.